Thank you. I think we'll attempt to get one more item in, I think, before we close the play at 5 o'clock. Okay. So we'll move ahead to the Trams to Newhaven objections.
Thanks, Convener. And I think Hannah's speaking to this again, and we have a Conservative group amendment that's been circulated on this item.
Thank you. I'm grateful we're fitting this in before the end of business. So again, for time, I won't add anything to the report, but I'm here to answer questions along with Robert Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Do we have any particular questions on this? Councillor Booth.
Thanks very much, Convener. Thanks very much indeed for the report. Could you just go through, obviously, Hannah, you and I have corresponded quite a bit on this issue, but could you go through the issue of the decision to, first of all, site the tram stop on Constitution Street, and then secondly, to exclude both cycles and buses from that section? You'll be aware in the conversation that we had at committee earlier on about the Leith LTN that bus access to this area of Leith is absolutely crucial. And it will come, I think ordinary members of the public will be absolutely bewildered that we were not able to find a way to ensure that buses could get through that section at the south end of Constitution Street. So could you just talk us through how that decision was arrived at, please, and why?
Sure. So the as you know, the tram route itself was laid down by legislation, and within that, the siting of the tram stops is always optimised for passenger ease of use. And the tram stops have been spaced with that in mind. Therefore, there was a tram stop located at the top section of Constitution Street, which is narrow. And turning first of all to your question about buses, that in the current circumstances raises a safety issue, because with bus wing mirrors, it could cause an accident from a safety if the bus wing mirrors traverse through the tram stop and could potentially hit somebody there. So for that reason, we've sought to ban buses going through the top end of Constitution Street. However, what we have said to Lothian buses is that we will look at that, because we know that they are bringing forward mirrorless technology. So the buses which are being trialled on the number 10 route at the moment are mirrorless, and if we can get to that point, then we can start to look at them opening up that section of route. In terms of cycle infrastructure, the route down Constitution Street is narrow, and I'll ask Robert if he's got anything to add at the end of this, but the route down Constitution Street is narrow, and for cyclists to cycle safely, they have to be able to do so outside of the tram tracks, which we're not able to give because of the width of the street. Robert?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much bang on, Hannah. It's very much a case of we're restricted by the space that we had in this section due to the fact that we needed to make sure that the footpaths were of adequate width, and then also being able to fit in the tram track itself, which would force cyclists to be cycling on the tram tracks, which obviously isn't something that we can really accommodate at all. So as part of this project, there's also the Leith Connections project to be able to take cyclists from the foot of the walk back down to Ocean Terminal, which is something that's being delivered at the moment as well.
If I may be able to permitted to come back with a supplementary, Convener, I'm grateful to those responses, and obviously I've received that in email as well. But I think it's important to get this on the public record. Could you just clarify? You mentioned that the reason buses can't go down is because of the wing mirrors. I mean, obviously there are many cities across continental Europe where buses regularly go on a dedicated tram routes. And as far as I'm aware, I mean, certainly when I lived in Augsburg and Bavaria, for example, it was commonplace and the buses had wing mirrors. So is there a specific issue with the wing mirrors and the width? And if so, how did we look at whether we could potentially resolve that? Because I do think that we are missing a trick here in not allowing buses through this section of Constitution Street.
So the decision was taken on the basis of of the peculiar circumstances of the top of Constitution Street, you know, the on the remainder of the route, buses will pass by tram stops. You know, so it's not, and of course they do so at the moment, you know, particularly looking at Shandwick Place, but in this location, it was simply too narrow because of the overhang of the wing mirrors. I'm sorry, I can't speak to the experience in other European cities and how narrow those streets may be. But that was the overriding reason for it, and it was taken, you know, in discussion with Lothian Buses and, of course, with Edinburgh Trams as well, who have to be comfortable that they're running a safe system.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions on this particular paper? And we only have the one amendment by the Conservative group.
Sorry, Convener, I did have a completely separate question, which might be a wee bit quicker. And unfortunately, I can't open my iPad, so I don't have the precise address. But I think there's a specific issue, Hannah, you will probably know about this, about trees outside, I think it's 129 Leith Walk, and the report. Obviously, we've had correspondence from constituents who are concerned that in one of the drawings, it appears that one of these trees is being taken away. Please, can you confirm on the record that all of those trees will be preserved?
Yes, so these are not landscaping plans, and we have made amendments to the design to accommodate those trees, so I can confirm that. And Robert, do you want to confirm that as well? Just so.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, I can second that one.
Yeah, and the reason I've asked Robert to do that is because I know there's anxiety about that. So, you know, it's something that's, you know, known by the team, and yes.
Thank you, that's appreciated.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, I'm going to move the report as it stands and not look at the accepting the amendment by the Conservative group. Councillor Doran, would you like to second?
I'd be delighted to second, and I'll do that formally, Convener.
Thank you. So, Councillor Hutchison, please.
Thank you, Convener. It's a very short amendment to one specific recommendation of the report. It was brought forward under a separate TRO. It's in TRO as the rest of the recommendations. We feel that this specific prohibition in terms of a left turn from Leith Walk into London Road will go against a lot of the aims that we're trying to achieve here in terms of diverting traffic away from arterial routes and onto side streets, obviously thinking about buses coming out of the Annandale Street bus depot and going to the start of your routes being one concern. And obviously is a comprehensive report. We're happy to accept the rest of it, but we do feel that this change is necessary. I move a Conservative amendment.
Thank you very much. And Councillor White?
I'm happy to second, Convener. The issue of that left turn will cause traffic onto adjacent streets, and we know that there will be traffic on other streets like Bonington area, Easter Road and other places when tram comes along, because the Stag 1 report says it. Like, it also dealt with the issue of buses on Constitution Street, and everything goes back to the original approval for trams. Buses have been envisaged as being removed from Constitution Street back then, but also traffic and pollution moving to other areas. We want to avoid that as much as we possibly can, especially as some of those streets are canyon streets with tenements, and so we'll object to this particular banning of a left turn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It left to me to sum up, I suppose, again, but I do believe that the issue of the left-hand turn is effectively dealt with within the report from 4.34 down to the end of that particular section, down to 4.37. Sorry, my apologies. So I think it's important that we leave it as it stands. So I'll be proposing the report as it stands at the moment. So Veronica.
Thanks, convener. So this is item 7.9. We have a motion by Councillor McInnes, seconded by Councillor Doran, which is to approve the recommendations in the report. The amendment by Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor White, is to approve the Conservative Group amendment as circulated. So I'll now launch the vote. Okay, convener, so we have 8 votes for the motion and 3 for the amendment, so the motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I think given the fact that we're 7 minutes ahead of 5 o'clock, we should draw a halt to there. My apologies to all of the officers who are waiting to provide the other agenda items and their contributions to it. My apologies for that, but given the fact that we didn't seem as a collective committee able to stick to the 40-minute rule today around each topic, this is the situation that we're in when we have a busy agenda. I'd like to suggest, if I may, Veronica has come up with a possible date for continuation for this of Friday the 27th, and I think in the afternoon would be appropriate for that. I hope that it will be a relatively short but useful committee, additional committee. So I throw that date out there just for your information, because I'm conscious it's not long, and presume that Veronica may be able to confirm all of that in writing to you, so that you can give appropriate feedback. But I think that's what we'll have to do, unfortunately. There's too much important stuff, particularly the B agenda item, that we will need to cover at that particular point. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks, convener.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Bye.